212. This is not necessarily for publication. This one here is rated R, restricted. The reason it's rated R because what we about to bring out is an offense to the entire world, but that's not new, because to bring out the gospel and the truth about Christ is to offend the entire world. The church system as we know it today is a farce and a lie. Islam as we know it today is a farce and a lie. These things have nothing to do with Christ, nothing to do with the King of the Jews, nothing to do with Israel, nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the Savior. The church is filled with a bunch of Sadducees and Pharisees, money-grubbing gangster thieves that need to be removed from their seat as Christ prescribed in the Bible.
And that's why it's important for us to know that these churches, all these churches, religions, are teaching lies, man. The entire so-called Christian churches are teaching lies. Islam is a lie. All these religions are lies, and they stop us from knowing who we really are, and that stops us from following the Bible, man. The church is teaching us that the laws are done away with. They teaching us that the laws are done away with. That's why all our women can go sit up in the church on Sunday, go on Monday, on Wednesday, different days, have Bible study, come out and be the biggest freaks they are, man. I believe in helping you, and listen, and I'm ready to die for it. I believe in you. I believe that you can be better. I believe that you should live. I believe you should not starve in the ghetto. I believe you should be on top. I believe in the wealth and the welfare of you. I don't believe in no damn religion. I believe in my brother. I believe in my brother.
Shalom Israel, welcome to I.S.U.P.K in Miami, Florida. Today we're going into the book of the Maccabees in the Apocrypha and talk about the Hellenist times. I am priest Palpawas, officer 500, and I have priest and officer Shawaya Allah, also of 500. And we're going to go into these documents that the Lord has given us to prove why these things were translated in Greek, why there was a gem, why there was a Hellenist period, and who's responsible. Right out of the Bible. In our last video, we read documents from the internet and other books, as the Josephus as well. Let's go into the Apocrypha. Tell them where you at, Hebrew.
This is 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. This Simon now, of whom we spake afore, having been a betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Onias, as if he had terrified Heliodorus and been the worker of these evils.
Simon is the father or the progenitor of Jason the high priest. That's why his name is mentioned first. Okay? When you come to the ISUPK, you begin to learn why names are at the top of a verse or at the top of the chapter when it's speaking of someone else, because it gives the popular progenitor first to tell where he's coming from, the reputation of that man. Read.
Thus was he bold to call him a traitor that had deserved well of the city, and tendered his own nation, and was so zealous of the laws. But when their hatred went so far that by one of Simon's faction murders were committed, Onias, seeing the danger of this contention, and that Apollonius as being the governor of Syria and Phoenice, did rage and increase Simon's malice.
Well, this is during the time of the war of the Maccabees as well, and that's why we're reading out of the second Maccabees. After the war, there were times where things trickled down into different wars, and Simon had a zealous spirit on him, but also he had a bit of rage, and this is what they're explaining. Continue.
He went to the king, not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, both public and private. For he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon leave his folly, unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, When Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest.
Now this is the end of the Seleucus. This is the beginning of the Seleucus period, where Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth came into power. And when he came into power, he raised this Hebrew up. His name is Jason. Okay, and he is the one who began pushing and pressing the Hellenist period, the Hellenist times, and the customs on the nation of Israel. Read.
Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise, and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen.
Okay, right there. They begin, go back to the talents, because I want to explain that.
Promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver.
That was a lot of money back then. We'll bring it out in a later video and explain to you what the amount that a talent was worth then and today. But it was quite a bit of money, because as it reads, continue reading.
And of another revenue 80 talents.
Another revenue 80 talents. He gave a lump sum and then some more to do what? Read.
Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise.
Now you see, this was an Israelite who went to the Greeks that was ruling over at this time. They had to get a license, just like in today's time. And license in this time and then costs money. And what did he want to build? A gym. And they call it a gym or a gymnasium. Read that and tell them what it is, Hebrew.
Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise.
A place for exercise. And where do we go to exercise? To lose weight, to get in shape. Jenny Craig, Bally's. Okay, read.
And for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen.
For training up in youth. Now they're talking about not only a place of exercise, but they want young men to be there. That's Bally's. That's your Nugget Gym. All these different gyms that we have today, they directly came from the past history of Israel, joining with the other nations, being there half naked, sweaty, testosterone all over the place, and men's mind going off into saying that they're building up to get in shape. But these are some of the Hellenistic customs that we fell right into back then that we still follow today. Go ahead, Hebrew.
If I could,
break that out.
What it's bringing out right here, it says in the fashions of the heathen. So it is like the brother is saying, you got half-naked men walking around this gym, and they want these young boys to learn the way that they do and get them indoctrinated like Eddie Long's young boys. You understand? So I was going to bring up that fashions of the heathen is their style, what they agree with, and their philosophies and all that.
And also another thing, the Olympics. Everyone's half dressed there, whether you wrestle, run track, play basketball, you're sweaty, you're young. It's something they create for the youth. It's nothing but homosexuality, transsexuals, however you want to call it, sexual agendas, the freaks. Okay, read.
And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians.
Okay, now Antiochus Epiphanes is the leader and the ruler. So now they want to give this thing a name, calling it Antiochians. No, we call it today the gym, the Olympics, the marathon, you know, and what do we name it after? The Boston Marathon is a famous race where people at various ages, but mostly youth, run half naked and sweaty. Read.
Which when the king had granted and he had gotten his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
He brought his own nation. Okay, his own nation, meaning there were two nations. There was Israel and there were the Greeks. That's why it says in there, the Greekish. We always teach you in I.S.U.P.K, ISH means like. See, these were Israelites pertaining themselves to be like the Greeks at the gym, in the Olympics, in the shower naked, all with each other. Everything's cool, it's fine, it's all right. It's a Greekish custom, okay? Just like the so-called white man calls himself Jewish. He tries to practice and wear black like the people, okay? Jewish, Jews, okay? Two different words. One means the original, meaning Jew. The other one means like, Jewish, okay? Read that again, because I think they might have missed that.
Okay. Which when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
He brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. Okay, when the king came into power to rule, because he was given this money and then some more money and then a little bit more money to build these gyms, to come in power, to let these people come in to act Greekish. Okay? Read.
And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid, he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat.
And there goes another man who subjected himself to following the Greek customs and brought young men to the place of workout and made them wear a hat. And what do they wear now in the game at the arena? A football helmet, right? So there was these hats that were symbol. Now they're telling you today that, oh, you wear a helmet to protect your head. Well, how come they don't wear a helmet in basketball? I mean, that's a colliding sport also. But there's a custom. You got to see the history. And I'm not saying that just because it's football and because this is the past, but I'm putting the hat and the helmet together to show you the symbolism of how these Greek customs were taken on by Israelite people and how today we do it now. You got Emmitt Smith, you got Michael Jordan, you got Yannick Noah. He's an old tennis player. You know, these people, and his son is running up and down the basketball court now. All these athletes. Grant Hill, his father ran up and down the football field. Now he's running down the basketball field, you know. In these games, these Greekish customs, in these arenas, in their youth. See, by the time you're 38 years old, in these sports, you're considered old. Read.
Now such was the height of Greek fashions, and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest.
See, now here we go. Showing you that Jason became an ungodly man, meaning he took on heathen customs. He no longer kept the tradition and the ways and the laws and statutes, commandment of the Most High. He took on heathen custom ways. Separate yourself from America, Israel. Come back to the knowledge of your history, your tradition, your custom. And that's our time, Israel. Shalom.
One, two, 1, 2. This is not necessarily for publication. This one here is rated R. Restricted. The reason it's rated R because what we about to bring out is an offense to the entire world. But that's not new, because to bring out the gospel and the truth about Christ is to offend the entire world. The church system as we know it today is a farce and a lie. Islam as we know it today is a farce and a lie. These things have nothing to do with Christ, nothing to do with the King of the Jews, nothing to do with Israel, nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the Savior.